It is finally time to take the next step with this fig wine. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Healthy Farm Living. We're here today, it's actually the end of March 2021, and the last time that we were here with this wine was about 6 months ago. It was September of 2020. Now that we've had this settling for 6 months, it's finally time to take the next step towards getting this wine bottled. The next step in the process of making the wine would be degassing. So now you can see this wine looks amazing, by the way. So you can see just how clear and clarified this wine has become. Has a beautiful golden brown color. Reminds me a lot of a whiskey, a bourbon, or a rum. So just a beautiful, beautiful color. And it looks as though it's completely clear. However, one thing we do know is that we do have a lot of gas that's still built up inside this liquid that we need to get out of there before we get to bottling. The first step we're going to show you is the degassing process. So let's go over the tools we're going to need in order to do that. The first thing would be a large container to take these two vessels and combine them into one. We have about 5 gallons or so here, just over 5 gallons here, and about a half a gallon of wine here. This is a 6.5 gallon big mouth bubbler, plenty of space to get this liquid transferred into this container. Next thing we need some way of getting the liquid out of these vessels and into that larger one. That's where this auto siphon and this tubing comes in. Now, we have this in our Amazon shop. We'll leave a link down below. In fact, most of the materials you see here today are, if you can't find those locally. But we'll be using this auto siphon in order to siphon the wine out of these vessels and into the larger one. We found that this auto siphon makes this a very, very simple process. The next thing we need something in order to get the gas stirred up and out of this wine. We're going to be using this wand here. This is a simple degassing wand. I've got it attached to a drill. By the way, if you're going to be using a drill, I don't know about you guys, but mine are always very dirty, so make sure they're clean before you start this process. A couple other things we're going to need. First would be a hydrometer. We are going to be taking our last specific gravity reading to make sure that we know where we finished. This is going to be inserted right into this container to get that final reading. However, if you didn't have a large enough container for this to float in, you could use another vessel, siphon it off of there into this one in order to get your specific gravity reading. Last but not least is a wine thief. We are going to be trying this wine today. Now, I can tell you, we know that we're going to be back sweetening this wine. We've made fig wine before. We found that all of our regular fruit type wines usually need a fair amount of back sweetening in order to get the taste and that kind of essence of that fruit back out of the wine. However, we are going to test it just to kind of see how it finished out without that back sweetening. Okay, next step is going to be to transfer the wine out of these vessels and into the larger one so we can get to degassing. I wanted to show you, we've racked this a couple times, but there's still a good amount of just dark sediment down there. At this point in the re-racking process, you'll see we left some wine down in there. We'll probably take some of this out. We've got a little bit up there as well. And we'll basically cold crash this, which basically just means put it in a wine bottle, put it in the fridge, and still actually drink this. But we want to make sure that we don't have any of basically the dregs left in our final finished wine. So this is basically finished. In fact, let's try it and see what it tastes like. So there is our finished fig wine. Hopefully you can pick that up. I'm not sure if the yellow shirt will help, but you can see just a beautiful clear wine. Let's go ahead and see what it smells like. So it's really strong. You guys know that we like a strong wine. I can just pick up a little bit of the fig. Let's go ahead and taste it. Actually, that's really good. Wow, very, very good. So definitely nice and dry. Just a hint of sweetness. I can barely pick out the fig though, so we definitely are gonna wind up needing to back sweeten this a bit, which we are gonna be showing you, and we already pretty much anticipated, but this is actually very good. Savor the rest of this for Lori. This would be the last step before bottling if you weren't gonna be back sweetening, and that is degassing. That's where this degassing wand comes in, and we're gonna go ahead and do that with this wine now. This is designed to fit right into here to basically keep it sealed if you wanted to. I find that it's easier for me to go ahead and just take this lid off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Obviously there's gonna be air in here. There's not much we can do. I'm gonna start this out at a slower speed and then work my way up. Okay, and that'll give you an idea of just how much gas you still had inside that wine that looked completely flat. So it shouldn't take long, and it's not gonna here. Perfect. You can see there's still a lot of gas in here that's being released. I'm gonna let it go ahead and do that. So you would do that once or twice, basically make sure that you're getting as much gas out of there as you can, and then that would be ready to bottle if you weren't gonna back sweeten it. However, we are. So we're gonna go ahead and show you a couple more things that we're gonna be doing with this in order to make sure that when we back sweeten it tomorrow, we don't have fermentation that's gonna kick back up again. Now, this next step is really optional. However, Lori and I have had some bad experience with fermentation kickstarting, and the worst thing you can hear is having dinner and hearing a cork pop when you shouldn't. And we've had that happen on more than one occasion. So we always make sure that we kill off any yeast that's still in there and use a yeast inhibitor to make sure that when we back sweeten, we don't have any yeast in there that's gonna re-kickstart fermentation. So the two things that we're gonna be adding today is gonna be potassium sorbate. That is basically a yeast inhibitor. It basically takes yeast and doesn't allow it to replicate. So we'll be adding that in the dosage suggested, which is half a teaspoon per gallon. The next thing we're going to be using are Camden tablets, and we're real cautious with these. We use just a handful of those in here to make sure, again, we're killing off any yeast that is alive. This doesn't kill yeast, this does, so we want to make sure we're using those. Now, this does have sulfite. It's potassium metabisulfite in there. So if you have issues with that, you want to be very careful and probably not use this at all. Maybe go with just the potassium sorbate. However, we're going to use both. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the Camden tablets broken down. That's why I have these 2 spoons here. And also add the potassium sorbate into this wine. And then we'll be on to the next step. So we want to give that about a day to off gas, get anything out of there that doesn't remain, because that will give off some gas. We want to let that happen. We want to kill off any yeast that might be in there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come back to back sweeten it. But that won't be today. That's going to be tomorrow. We're here, it's 24 hours later, and this wine is ready to finish. So we had mentioned before that we do like to back sweeten our fruit wines, so our non-grape wines. We do like to go ahead and back sweeten. We find that it just really brings out the fruit flavor, and we don't like really sweet wine, but we definitely like an off dry to medium wine, and that's where we're headed for this. Now, this is completely subjective. We're not even gonna give you any numbers. What we do is we basically use a cup, and we do use a simple syrup. And actually, it's not quite a simple syrup, which I think is a 1-to-1 ratio of sugar to water. Well, instead of trying to explain it, let me actually show you how we made this simple syrup. So you can see all we did was just mix the sugar in about 50% water, and what we wind up with is a very, very clear liquid. So you can see as Lori comes in close what that liquid looks like. So slightly off-white, but for the most part, nice and clear. This is actually what you want to use to back sweeten. If you used just raw or granulated sugar, you'll find that you're going to get a lot of crystals in the bottom of your wine, so you definitely want to use this basically liquefied sugar. Now, what we're going to do, we've got a wine thief here, we have a glass, it's Sunday afternoon, so we're going to go ahead and get to sweetening. It's pretty straightforward. We use 1 cup at a time considering how much wine we have, and we just taste it to see when we think it's just right. All right, so we got 2 cups of sugar. I think we have, what do we have? Just over 5 gallons, so about 5.5 gallons of wine. So let's go ahead and see what this tastes like. Smells good. Okay, it's good. Still a little more off dry. With this particular fig wine, Lori and I agreed we want this a little sweeter. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and add a couple more cups. I'm gonna have Lori try this out, get her approval, and then we'll see if we can call it done. Like that, the fig wine vintage 2020 is actually complete. So I will tell you, we wound up using about 7 cups of sugar to get it just how we want it. A little on the sweet side for us, but we definitely wanted that this time around with this fig wine. We've made them more off dry in the past, and we wanted something a little sweeter, more of a dessert wine. Now, you can leave them just like this. These are complete. You'd probably want to top this container off just a little bit so you can put some of this into here if you weren't going to bottle these, just to top it off. And then of course you can keep these in the fridge at this point. Now we are going to bottle these. However, we're not going to show you that specifically for this wine because we already have a video on bottling. In fact, I'll link that for you here if you want to take a look at how you can bottle this particular fig wine. But really, truly, it's actually completely done at this point. So I hope you enjoyed this one. We really enjoy making wine. We will have additional winemaking videos here on this channel. Also, check out the farm channel, the primary farm channel, Edge of Nowhere Farm. We do have several videos on there, as well as a complete guide, start to finish, on how to make a wine. That one was an apple wine. But we've got a lot more that we're going to be covering here on this channel with you guys going forward, especially as we have more production happening on the farm. We're going to share as much of that as we can here on this channel with you. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section down below. Hey, subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of things here we're going to be covering as we have, again, more production off the farm and we start turning those into healthy recipes. We're going to share those with you here. And then, of course, check out our Edge of Nowhere Farm channel. That's where we have all of our farming videos and how we produce the things like the figs that you're seeing turning into wine here today. One last thing, our Amazon shop, that is a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with that link, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. And a lot of the things you see for winemaking are in that shop as well. So just want to thank you for joining me today and remind you to be farm healthy.
We forgot to taste it.
I need to have a drink. That's good.